Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we've got two cards to talk about, the new Produce SSR for Tenka, as well as Support SSR for Kogane. Remember, this is Twilight's collection, meaning that this banner seems to run every 2 months or so. The cards do come back on the Twilight's collection banner specifically, though at much lower rates than normal. You can't use Hazukis on these cards, so if you want to beef them out, you've got to get a couple copies on the banner specifically. For some, it's a burden. For others, it's a great way to dump a ton of money. So, be very mindful about how much you decide to invest into these banners because the cards do come back at the very least. Starting things off, we have Tenka. So, I guess the idea is that Twilight's collection is every 2 months or so. Maybe they've settled on a time frame, I guess, which helps a bit. Going from, we don't know when it's going to happen, to, it's going to be at least every 2 months. So I guess we should just start planning for April. Now, Tenka 8 is a pure dance unit with all the bells and whistles that we've come to expect from Twilight's collection. She has an AoE appeal when she's maxed out, she has a load of powerful passives, she has the anti-Daikichi measures at 1 star, which I think is kind of hilarious, and she supplements the Alstroemeria game plan with damage reduction and multiple sources of healing. As always, remember that Twilight's collection not having access to Hazuki means that you may be stuck at a relatively low power Tenka unless you invest heavily in the banner. Thankfully, Twilight collection cards have strong memory appeals, meaning that even as a center, Tenka has very high potential. In fact, a lot of the Dance Alstroemeria teams have been opting to use Tenka as their center even if they went all the way to get her to 4 stars, as she is insane for that team specifically and can easily boost the relevancy by a ton. It's worth it to pull this Tenka specifically if you want to play Alstroemeria. She's a great card to start building around if you don't have any of the pieces, but if you have a lot of the supports, this card becomes all the crazier. Her roles are center, buffer, attack all, healer, and has damage cut, and I highly to very highly recommend pulling for this Tenka. Tenka's initial skill is a dance 3.5 appeal that heals your mental by 10%. The excess is converted into memory gauge, so if you only healed, say, 5%, then you would receive an additional 5 points to your memory gauge. The Link appeal is a dance 60% up for 3 turns. Her 1-star skill is a dance 5.0 appeal that heals your mental by 25%, again converting any excess into memory gauge, and also applies a mental 3% regen for 2 turns, and links into a dance 100% up for 5 turns. Her 4-star appeal is a dance 1.0 to 5.0 to all judges that scales based on the number of heal instances. Remember that this means that it increases by 1.0 for every heal, so it caps out after 4. It also applies a dance 100% buff for 3 turns and links into a dance 100% buff for 5 turns. Now for the passives. Tenka's 1-star passive is a dance 50% up and mental damage 20% cut that requires the turn count to be 2 or earlier. This is a 30% chance to activate once. This also unlocks a dance plus 150 uncap. Her 2-star passive is a dance 100% up and mental 5% heal that only requires Tenka in your skill history, which has a 30% chance to activate twice, and this unlocks a vocal dance visual combined 100 uncap. The 3-star passive is a dance 130% up if you have 5 or more total heals during the run, which has a 40% chance to activate twice. Remember that every regen instant counts as 1 as well. So, just off of her 1-star appeal, that's already 3, and if you use her 0-star, that's 4. Alstroemeria have other cards that can apply at least 1 or 2, so you can start to kind of think about how your turn order looks in order to get those 5 heals. Again, 40% chance to activate twice, and it has a mental plus 200 uncap. Her 4-star Rainbow passive we'll talk about in a second, but it comes with a vocal dance visual 100 uncap as well. Her memory appeal when maxed out is a dance 3.2 based on how high your mental is, that links into a dance 3.5 based on how many number heal. Her memory appeal when maxed out is a dance 3.2 that scales based on how high your mental is, and links into a dance 3.5 based on the number of heal instances you've had in the run. Her Rainbow passive is a dance 200% up that requires the full Alstroemeria lineup on stage, as well as a total heal count of 6 or more. This has a 30% chance to activate twice, limited to once per turn, and she has the Twilight's Collection passive of all members gaining a plus 5% to their appeal strength. Tenka's Rainbow passive is naturally really good, but it's going to take a fair bit of setup to make it happen. Thankfully, there are plenty of Alstroemeria cards between Produce and Support that can make this a reliable bonus. Her Twilight's Collection passive is the same as always. It's still good, so make use of it where you can. And remember, you can technically pass it on into Step, but you can't inherit it, which means that you can't just cheat it onto another book, so you'll always have to use a Tenka book in order to pass that ability onto your other memories, but it'll all stack together as well, which can be very strong if you've already got all your necessary pieces. Just something to keep in mind. Twilight's Collection has not gotten any less expensive, so it's fair to consider that many may only have this Tenka at 0 or 1 star. You may just happen upon her and then say, I'm good, I don't want to go any further. Thankfully, Tenka provides a decent passive even as early as 1 star. This also gives you access to your double heal appeal, giving you a quick push towards some of your stronger passives if you have them available through other cards. Tenka isn't the only card that scales based on heal count. A lot of the other Alstroemeria cards can, especially their newer ones, making that still a good investment even at 1 star. And remember, she has a very strong memory appeal, meaning that even at 1 star, her sitting as a center is fantastic. If you're fully focused on playing Dance Alstroemeria, you ideally want to get Tenka as strong as possible, but just be careful with how much you're investing into these banners. They do come back around every couple of months. The rates are relatively low for the returns, but it may save you some gems in the long run. Now, support recommendations. Our MVP, of course, is Colorful Chiyuki, but we've got a lot of interesting assorted options. Dance Alstroemeria have the benefit of making full use of Colorful Chiyuki, and can be paired with either Ninja Amana or Hell Training Amana to make use of Unit Masteries or Room Masteries, whichever you prefer. I think most teams prefer Ninja right now just because of the healing, but Hell Training Amana has some Room Mastery bonuses that some may value higher than the Ninja Amana card. The rest, like Madoka, is just this generally good support card. Daikichi fits really well with this team. Natsuha is a great choice, as well as Mei, and Yuika is good for Grad if you don't have access to a card like Asahi. Realistically, you want to be utilizing as many healing passes as possible, but that's not really feasible with anything outside of Alstroemeria, so take what you can. Daikichi has practical application outside of her appeal because of how her passives can synergize with Alstroemeria, and the stalling can help as well. Now, depending on who you have or have invested into, you can swap between Wei Natsuha or Mochi Mei, as they both fulfill very similar roles for keeping stamina high and generating SP. And again, Yuika is a pretty good card to pair up with Daikichi if you lack something like Asahi if you're building in, say, Grad over Step. On to the grades. If it's any sort of surprise, Tenka's insane, as a center SS and as a unit SS, assuming you max her out. If you have Tenka at 0 to 1, she's more like a B+, and that grade drastically goes up with every copy you get. Now, this memory appeal is insane and consistent when you consider what Alstroemeria is up to these days. It goes without saying that Tenka as a center is absolutely the way to go if you fail to push extra copies of her, but it's not a bad thing to do even if you do max her out. Just because you can't access strong appeals and passives doesn't mean she's useless, so make do with what you can. The payoff is well worth it with a great lineup. As a unit, Tenka follows all the usual trappings for Twilight's Collection. She's a solid center without much merit otherwise at 0 star, and slowly becomes more and more insane with each copy you get, and is easily the best piece of support Dance Alstroemeria has gotten all year without question. Not to say that there has been much, but I mean there is the Amana. She almost quite literally has everything you would want on a modern card in terms of utility, and absolutely plays well to the strengths of Alstroemeria, and feels like a brand new step in the right direction for that team, which, not to say that it has completely fallen off, but it did take a short break from being a relatively considered team to now absolutely being considered again. So, weigh your jewels carefully as you decide to pull on the banner or not. Next, of course, we have Kogane. Next in line for the Twilight's Collection supports is Kogane, which I think we're deciding on calling Koganyan or Koganeko. We're not sure yet. There is a cat involved, named Mami. Funny enough, M-A-M-I. I don't know if it's actually written the same way as the 765 idol, but the joke is that it's supposed to be similar to Mamimi. Kogane is a pure vocal card with a lot of SP and stamina masteries. Combine this with her ability to reduce your mental to set up for Antika appeals, and scales well with high health builds, it makes her a great candidate for a multitude of teams. She's a great buff for Vocal Antika and should be considered heavily if that's the team you enjoy the most. She's a very, very basic support at 0 stars and is a real beast at 4 stars. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, with the usual Twilight's Collection bump of being plus 15 at level 80 as opposed to the usual level 10. Rest Boost level 3, Stamina Support level 5. She has 5 unique support skills, Unit Mastery SP reaching plus 10 at 65, 6 at 55, Vocal Mastery SP reaching plus 12 at level 70, 6 at level 60. Vocal Mastery Vocal Limit Up reaching a max of plus 8 at level 80, 6 at 75, and 4 at 50. Unit Mastery Stamina reaching plus 3 at level 75, 1 at 60, and Room Mastery reaching plus 8 at level 80, plus 4 at 65. I would say a safe number to think about is the 60 to 65. She has access to almost everything except the slightly stronger stamina support, but otherwise still very confident at 1 star. Her support appeal does scale. It's a Vocal 3.1 at level 60 that gives you a 5% vocal buff for 3 turns, gradually working its way up to a Vocal 3.5 with a 25% vocal buff by level 80. Her TFD idea is Appeal, her Insight token for Grad is Mental, and her proficiency and landing point is in Mental. Kogane's 0-star passive is a Vocal 60% up if it's turn 3 or earlier, which has a 20% chance to activate twice. This unlocks a Vocal plus 50 uncap. Her 1-star Appeal is a Vocal 3.5 that ignores interest and raises your Vocal by 30% for 3 turns, while also reducing your current Mental by 10%. This has a Vocal plus 50 uncap unlocked as well. Her 2-star passive is a Vocal 130% up that requires your maximum Mental to be 4,500 or higher, and your current Mental to be 74% or lower. This has a 20% chance to activate twice, and again unlocks a Vocal plus 50 uncap. Her 3-star Appeal is a Vocal 5.0 that ignores interest, raises your Vocal by 60% for 3 turns, reduces your Mental by 10%, and duets with Tenka. This is a Vocal Mental plus 50 uncap unlocked as well. Her 4-star Rainbow passive is a Vocal 200% up and Attention 50% down that requires the full Tenka lineup and the turn count to be 4 or later. This has a 20% chance to activate once and is limited to once per turn, and it unlocks a Vocal Mental plus 50 uncap. Again, like every other card, B plus to double S, in this case double S minus for Kogane. Again, the usual Twilight's Collection issue. You definitely need copies of this Kogane to make her feel like a worthwhile investment. Part of the bigger issue with these cards is how they feel effectively worthless at 0 stars, and if I were to say where you should safely stop, it's 1 star. Maybe 2 star if you want to push your luck. But again, just be mindful of your own limits on pulling. These banners do come back around every couple of months, and you may just happen to find Kogane when you pull on a newer banner. She's a phenomenal support for Vocal Tenka, who have already found new life using this card. If there's any real complaint, it's the mental reduction being not as high as most would like. I think if the 3-star Appeal had been a 20% or 25% decrease to really activate the 2-star passive, we could really see some crazy innovations with this, but 10% is still okay, it could have been better. The random duet on her 3-star Appeal doesn't help either. I think if it had been specifically a Kogane duet, then it would have been absolutely fine, but I don't know, they're a little afraid about turn 4 memory appeals with Tenka, at least targeted ones. They still want your turn order to feel semi-random. This card will grow a lot on players as builds accommodate for her, and I look forward to seeing how Vocal Tenka grows with this new card in question. So, that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to, well, like the video, and share it around to people that may be interested in this type of talk for shiny colors. Next time we'll be talking about the upcoming banner, which is another limited banner for some reason. That is Asahi and Hiyori. We also have My Songs collection that will be coming along in March. That will be a combined banner of Juri and Madoka. They all seem interesting to some degree, so we'll just have to see how good those banners really are. Till next time, I've been Cho. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.